Happy Wednesday, everyone. Welcome back to the PFN Miami Dolphins podcast. My name is Dolph Freaky here once again with my co-host, Adam Beasley, who's been out and about in the practices. I have not, for one. I haven't been to practice this week. So, Adam, you're going to have to fill us in with everything going on training camp.
It's been really hot, dude. It's been so hot.
I believe it. I mean, we just had this storm roll through. So, most people know, like, we had the stadium practice on Saturday that got canceled due to tropical storm / Hurricane Debbie. And, that was disappointing to me because I was looking forward to finally getting back into my home place. But yeah, so that got canceled. So, we resumed practices this week, and the humidity, they're saying it's just record humidity after Debbie left us.
Yeah, it is so gross. I think we're 2 weeks we're taping this on Wednesday. So 2 weeks from today, 2 weeks ago today, it started. And I think today was practice number 12.
How has it been 2 weeks already? That just flew by.
It's nuts. And next week's the last bad week. We got 4 straight days of Dolphins practice, Monday through Thursday, the last of which will be a joint practice with the Commanders. And then they play Washington next Saturday. And then it's like crunch time, right? We go out to Tampa. Yeah, go to Tampa for that joint practice. I think they have the days. I think it's a Wednesday practice. No, it's a Thursday practice. No, Wednesday because the game's Friday. Just one day out there, and then it's cuts, and then we're in regular season mode. So
this is exciting.
I know.
We've had the Falcons in the building for the joint practices. So that's how you know it's on now. We got the opponents in the building. So tell us a little bit about what you saw out there.
Yeah, I mean, the team is definitely starting to come together. The Dolphins released their depth chart because they have to do their week release and release their depth chart for the first game. And there really weren't too many surprises. I mean, on the first team, Durham Smythe, they had a Jonnu Smith. That's a coin flip. We all knew that Liam Eichenberg was going to be their right guard, but maybe not if Aaron Brewer's hurt. We'll get to that in a minute. But beyond that, Robert Jones has been left guard throughout all of camp. On defense, if there was a little bit of a surprise, I don't think it's even a surprise, but just confirmation of what our eyes saw. Quentin Bell starting outside linebacker, which is just a great story for that dude. He's come from really out of nowhere. He was on the practice squad last season, didn't see him play, and then boom, here we go, and he's doing a really good job in camp. So that's a little bit of a surprise. Benito Jones is starting defensive tackle. All those guys will rotate. Really, the team is what we thought it would be. Cater Co, who's got the lead right now over Cam Smith, but Cam hasn't practiced really in a couple of weeks, so it's not at all surprised that that's what that is. So, no, I think they're kind of getting a sense of what their identity is. And the last 2 days, today is Wednesday, Tuesday and Wednesday this week, with those joint practices with the Falcons, I think they got a much better feel for their strengths and their weaknesses.
So we had seen a little bit of the Tua Tyreek connection, and viral video, fabulous connection between those two guys. So, Tyreek was kind of saying, like, we've been looking to show out, this whole camp. And, that's the thing that gets the fans fired up when you see those little videos circulating. So what has your impression been with Tua and the receivers so far?
Yeah, no. So he's been as advertised, and Grady Jarrett, I got a chance to talk to him, the defensive tackle for the Falcons, one of the most respected players in the league. Certainly is a cornerstone piece of that Falcons locker room. Had really nice things to say about him. Said it was well deserving of that contract he got, and he's a special guy, he's a special player. So when you kind of hear those things, certainly we saw the NFL Top 100. By the way, topped by Tyreek Hill, number one, first time Dolphins have a number one player in the top 100. But I think Tua came in at number 36, and that speaks to ahead of Joe Burrow, by the way, and that speaks to the respect. Controversy, right? That speaks to the respect he's got around the league, and I don't think anything we saw the last 2 days would take away from that. That connection with Tyreek was marvelous. So it was, as you mentioned, it was something they've been trying to get to in camp, and they just weren't getting the right looks from the defense, and the Falcons gave them that look. I don't think it wasn't quite as dynamic between Tua and Tyreek today, although the backups had some pretty explosive plays, at least Skylar did. And so it's slowly coming together. I think it's tough really to judge based on like there are like more than a dozen guys missing today. Just minor injuries, nicks and bumps, and this and that. So you can't really crush them too much if they weren't high flying offense. But
Right.
what they really need to establish is they can't be just Tua to Tyreek for a touchdown, right? That can't be their entire offense. They need to be diverse. They need to be multiple, and they need to be able to sustain long drives so their defense isn't out there getting gas. So I think they took a step in the right direction today. Certainly, it would be helpful to get those wide receivers back. Waddle didn't practice today. Odell obviously is still on PUP.
Okay.
Eric Ezukama, we'll see what his deal is. He's in practice in a while. Barrios was out. And Tyreek, as I said, did very little today. So
is there a reason that Barrios is out?
Yeah, he's got something minor. Mike McDaniel really isn't too forthcoming this time of year because he doesn't have to with injuries. But I don't think any of these guys, with maybe the exception of Ezukama, is a real concern going forward. They're going to get Odell back at some point. We've seen him out there running. But it was like the cast of backups today. It was, Anthony Schwartz didn't practice today either, although he isn't one of the top 4 or 5 options for them. But so they were down to Malik Washington, who I think had an excellent practice today. I think he caught 2 long balls, including one for a touchdown. That was probably the highlight of the day. But no, it's tough to get and we're going to, first preseason game we'll talk about in a bit. It's going to be really tough to really get a sense of what these quarterbacks can do because they're be thrown to a bunch of backups. But I do think the clock is starting to tick now, right? I think 4 weeks from tomorrow, I believe. Is that correct? The start of the season is 4 weeks from tomorrow.
Unreal.
Yeah.
That's unreal.
So it's going to be here before we know it. That's obviously the Thursday night game, the opener. Who are the Chiefs playing? The Chiefs Ravens? What is that game?
That's Chiefs. I don't know who the
always Chiefs and somebody because they always win the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah.
If there's only some sort of computer device that would tell me who they're opening again. Chiefs Ravens. Yeah. Chiefs and the Ravens at Arrowhead on September 5th, which it's 29 days away, which is absolutely bananas. The season's going to be here before we know it.
Yeah, I can't believe it. So the defense, it's been looking physical out there in training camp. I've seen a lot of highlights and updates and, a lot of things going around about Chop getting into it with the Falcons. And, what is your impression of the defense?
Yeah, I mean, they didn't have a ton of talent out there today. They weren't quite as banged up as the Dolphins offense, but they were missing, a lot of players today. And they gave up more yards than they did the day before. I think really Tuesday was when they showed out. And Kirk Cousins, I think, had one pass of more than 12 yards, I think, the entire day. The run defense was just absolutely physical. And I think we're getting a true sense and an appreciation, not just for Emmanuel Ogbah, who we've had around here for a while, but Calais Campbell. I mean, he is an absolute force in the trenches. He's been really good, and he's been able to do a lot of things. He's going to be able to do a lot of things for this Dolphins defense. I came away really impressed, particularly yesterday when they had all their guys, by how they've looked against. Let's face it, the Falcons have some talent on offense, right? Kirk Cousins, although he's probably not 100% yet, still gimping around a little bit on that Achilles. Very decorated quarterback, and he still got game left in him even at his advanced age. Drake London's there, Bijan Robinson's there. They've got a lot of talent on that offense. And the Dolphins really shut them down on Tuesday, and the secondary was the coverage was tight. And they got constant. They were always in the backfield, right? And it wasn't just one player; it was a host of players. You mentioned Chop. He continues to show out for them, but Pierre Tart made some splash plays. I mean, Brandon Peely, I think, had a sack or a tackle for loss. It was encouraging because the Falcons aren't some pushover team, and they're probably going to win the NFC South this year. That might be more of an indictment of the South than it is praise for the Falcons. But the fact that they are able to go toe to toe with that offense, again, without some of their best players. We haven't seen Jalen Phillips all camp. We haven't seen Bradley Chubb all camp. The fact that they were able to do that with that diminished personnel, I think it's very encouraging for what's to come for this team.
So we're going into the preseason game against the Falcons on Friday at 7. We won't be seeing Tua most likely during that game. Will we be seeing any starters that you would think?
Yeah, no, we'll definitely see a bunch of starters. I think the offensive line needs to work, first of all. They had, if there was one drawback from this week's joint practice, they got a starting offensive center. Their starting offensive center banged up, and Aaron Brewer. We don't know how serious it was. He did apparently come back from the training room to watch the end of practice. So if it was something really serious, he wouldn't have come back for that. But it just kind of highlights how precarious that interior offensive line. They got plenty of tackles, but their interior offensive line, we kind of worried all off-season, spring, late into the summer. Hey, did they do enough? I mean, really, you look at their personnel, and they lost Robert Hunt, as we all know. They lost Connor Williams, and Brewer is obviously either the Williams replacement, but they didn't really replace Robert Hunt. They brought in Jack Driscoll. He's not running with the starters. Let me look at the depth chart, but I think he might be second, if not third team for them. Let me take a look right now. And so, yeah, he's second team. Keon Smith, again, is a tackle. He's probably not going to have any chance to play guard. So, yeah, they've got some questions. Or Kendall Lamb's not going to play guard for them. So they got some questions, particularly if Brewer doesn't play. Then you move Eichenberg, who had been at right guard, hadn't done a great job, but really was the best of what they had at this point. Move him back to center, and then it's, oh my goodness, what's going on? I think they really like what Rob Jones has been doing for them. And so I think they believe he's taken another step forward. But they got to figure out center, and they got to figure out right guard, and they have to do it soon. So I think you're going to see, you asked me what starters you're going to see. You're not going to see Teron Armstead. You're almost certainly not going to see Austin Jackson. But I think you see anybody who's in the mix in the interior offensive line, they're going to play a lot. Tua's not going to play. Raheem's not going to play. Achan's not going to play. Anybody who you, skill position-wise, that you think you're going to have to count on early in the season.
Can't afford the injuries. Yeah.
No, can't do it. So I think, certainly offensive line has been a question, will continue to be a question, and we'll get some answers on Friday night. On the defensive side, I mean, it's a chance for some of these guys who we think are pretty good, but we don't know, to show up. I mean, this has been the summer of Quentin Bell, as I mentioned before, kind of come out of nowhere. He's gotten opportunities with the Phillips injury and with the Chubb injury, and some of these other guys. Mohamed Kamara has been a little dinged up. I don't know if he's going to play. So he's gotten chances because people that you thought would be ahead of him in the depth chart have been hurt, and he's really run with it. Now, I didn't see a ton of splash plays from him from the Falcons joint practices. He's going to need to show up in these more competitive situations for the Dolphins to count on him. But certainly, he's going to play a significant amount. I think they're going to play. Zach Sealer's not going to play. I'd be stunned if he plays. Calais Campbell, you know what you have in him. But these other collection of defensive tackles that you're going to have to really, have some definition from. Benito Jones, Jonathan Harris, T.R. Tart, Brandon Peely, Neville Gallimore. The list goes on and on. Deshaun Hand, Isaiah Mack, all these guys that have been in the rotation. They're going to play. I think the safeties are going to
shine for those boys.
Yeah,
what I like about preseason. You get a good taste of these lesser known guys.
Yeah, you're going to know pretty quick who you actually can count on in these games when the season begins. And so, I mentioned the defensive tackle situation. Question of how much we'll see out of the linebackers. They've got some injuries there. We haven't seen Anthony Walker in a bit. Jordan Brooks has been in and out. I doubt we see either of them in the game. Would be stunned if you see David Wilson. But they need still to have some of these stand-up linebackers step up. Channing Tindall have a chance to make this team. Zeke Vandenberg is a guy that really has been kind of talked about a bit. Grayson Murphy, Cam Brown, all these guys that are fighting for their professional lives, right? They need to win a roster spot. They're going to play as well. And I think in the secondary, not going to see Jalen Ramsey. You're not going to see Kendall Fuller. Almost certainly not going to see Kader Kohu, particularly with Cam Smith being banged up. You can't put him in risk.
Right.
But I think some of these backup corners, the Ethan Bonners of the world, the Storm Ducks of the world, the Nick Needhams of the world, although he's going to probably be a safety for them if he makes the team. I'd like to see how they do as well.
Yeah, interesting. So this is also our first chance to take a look at our rookies for for real for the first time. So do we expect Chop Robinson to get some play time?
Oh yeah, 100%. I would be stunned. The only rookie who I doubt will play is Kamara, as I mentioned, because he's banged up. But look, I mentioned Quentin Bell. Hadn't really made a ton of splash plays once they got to this joint practice. Chop Robinson has. He was an absolute thorn in the side of the Falcons for much of the last 2 days. So I think you're going to see him certainly play. Look, this is a big early test for Patrick Paul. We all knew he was a project coming out of college, maybe a year or two away from helping this team. He's had his ups and downs moments. It's not helped him that he's had to go against Chop every day in practice. I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't watch a ton of the offense the last 2 days. We divvy up responsibilities among the beat because there's just so much going on. So I was watching the defense. So it's going to be cool for me to see how Patrick Paul does against the Falcons after not seeing much of him the last couple of days. Keon Smith, another guy that you're going to probably see a ton of. And right now, I mean, he's probably pushing Kendall Lamb for OT3. And if he has a really good camp, maybe he continues to move up that depth chart. Obviously, he's not going to supplant Armstead or Jackson, but one of those two guys gets hurt, they're going to need a swing tackle, and I think he's definitely in the mix for that.
So is that usually how you typically work when you go to a practice? You pick like, okay, I'm doing defense today, I'm doing offense tomorrow. Is that how you typically handle it?
Yeah, I mean, when it's Dolphins versus Dolphins, it's a lot easier because everything's right in front of you. Yeah. But it's crazy. I mean, first of all,
I don't know how you guys do it. I don't know how you digest everything that's happening out there.
It takes a village, right? It takes all of us. My job today was literally just to see who was getting pressure on the quarterback and charting the plays. I had one of my buddies from CBSSports.com that was out there, and he helped me Falcons versus Dolphins. So we did a lot of that.
So you guys work together?
No, 100%. There's the only way you can. I mean, you're talking about 180, 170, 180 different players that are out there at any given time. It's tough to keep track of them all, especially when they're brawls, by the way. I mean, we haven't even talked about Fight Club. We haven't even, I know you're not supposed to, but we can a little bit here.
Well, we can here because this is our podcast and we can talk about whatever we want.
it was good to see them have a little spunk. Right. And nobody wants someone to get hurt. You don't want things to cross the line. But I mean, as Kendall Fuller put it today, back-to-back days is really tough in that environment, in that high level of competition. When it's 1 billion degrees outside, you're gonna have some fights, and it kind of boiled over today. And it was
literally
time. Yesterday and today, it was Falcons offense versus Dolphins defense. The other side, they must be too nice, I guess. Dolphins offense and Falcons defense, they didn't have any bad blood that they certainly had on the far field. And it was good to see them not back down because, I mean, we've talked about this a lot, and Calais Campbell has talked about it, and who was it? Oh, was it? Yeah, Jordan Poyer who said, this is a team that we kind of felt like we, as the Bills, when you play for the Bills, we kind of felt like if you can get up on them, they're going to fold on you, and they're not going to have heart. They're not going to fight. Tyreek Hill last year said, hey, we can't be a bunch of front runners. I mean, that's all basically saying we got to be tougher.
Yeah, and don't let yourself get bullied.
You be the aggressor, right? Don't be the one who lets the fight come to you. You got to take the fight to them. And quite literally, we saw that the last couple of days. And it'll be interesting. I know the Giants and the Lions, I believe, had a bunch of fights, and they got fined by the league because of that environment. We'll see if any of those fines come down to the Dolphins. But it was
you don't want to take it that far to the point where people are getting hurt or people
getting
fined or we're known as a dirty team. Obviously we don't want any of that.
No. Certainly, but you also don't want to back down, right? And they did not. They passed that test the last couple of days. The X's and O's, they can clean that up, but you can't fix soft, right? You can't fix teams not having that dog in them, so to speak. You can't. And I
feel like a lot of teams feel that way about us, maybe because of Tua and his demeanor and the way that he is quiet and to himself.
Yeah, I mean, just ask Willie Snead, right? Willie Snead, who late in the Dolphins playoff game basically called Tua soft.
Yeah.
Funny now that they're teammates, but
since his contract, we have seen a new look to a little more spunk and
But I don't think Tua is ever going to set the tone with that. Like he's going to be like the disciplinarian, like, hey, get your bleep together. But he's not the one that's going to be the emotional driving force, and it's often not quarterbacks, right? It's usually defensive players, or if you have like a real true alpha wide receiver. Tyreek Hill sets the tone, but he's not a huge guy. But I think having Calais Campbell, who I don't know if you have a chance to see this guy, but he is a mountain of a man. Like he is a large human being, and like he can bring that. Jalen Ramsey absolutely can bring that. Like so, you start to put, David Long has an intensity to him. Like you can start to. I do think they need to have a little bit more a-hole on the offensive line. Mm-hmm. Like those guys are pretty nice. They're nice dudes, and you could really use one jackass in there who really just who stirs things up. I'm not saying they need.
Tyreek could teach them because he likes to run his mouth.
That is true, and I'm not saying you need someone as crazy as Richie Incognito.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
You need someone like that in the trenches who's just going to be mean, nasty, maybe dirty at times if that's what it calls for within the limits. But we talk about this in the media room all the time. This is the nicest, easy to root for group of players, and that's fantastic. But you can't all be nice guys on a football team. It is the truest gladiator sport that we have, and you need people to really assert themselves. And it was good for me these last couple of days to see them step up and do that. And again, there's going to be some missed assignments, right? There's going to be, I can't tell you how many flags were thrown the last 2 days, guys jumping off sides, false starts, DPIs and all that. Again, these are things that you can clean up. You can't fix soft. And it's been encouraging for me to see them not back down.
Yeah, this is such an interesting discussion because I don't have any access to them, outside of what I see on, film and stuff. So I do like with Hard Knocks, it was wonderful because we could, see the discussions, we could see how they kid around with each other. And, we already know that Coach is nice, and he's nerdy and, just, doing his thing. So do you think there's any like assistant coaches in the building who really could bring that fire for this team?
Well, you look at the coordinators, and Frank Smith isn't that guy. Again, he's more of a McDaniel nerd than he is. Okay. Anthony Weaver, the new defensive coordinator, being a former player, coming from that Baltimore culture, which Baltimore bullies, is absolutely fair. I think he is a positive guy, but I also think he is going to be a very real guy to them. So that could help. I don't know a lot of the new assistants particularly well. I can't speak to the Joe Barrys of the world. It's just too early for me to say that. But yes, you're absolutely right. If it's not going to be McDaniel MFing these guys and really pushing them to be, play
like he can't, you see him trying to bring that fire and he knows what to say, but he's little and lot of guys just oh yeah. I know what it is. I'm like 5'0" and people don't.
Okay, but you've got an edge to you, all right. We don't want to piss off the freaky. I've learned.
Well, it's true.
You can flip a switch, and I'm sure McDaniel.
I have my crazy side.
I'm sure McDaniel can too. But really, what we've learned from this training camp is all these things that these narratives are real, like fading late in the season and not being tough enough and can't stay healthy and all these things that we've talked about. we see them, they absolutely see them, and it's kind of been, affirmational. I guess that's the word. Is that a word? It's been affirming. Affirming. That's the word.
Sure.
To know that they see the same problems that we do. But I don't know if this is a coach fix problem. I think this is a player led.
Yeah, it has to come from within.
Correct. And even Tua said, this is not Mike's team. This is our team, right?
Yeah.
This is the players' team. Mike, fantastic coach. Anthony Weaver, fantastic coach. This is our team. They're here to help us. We're here to do it. So we're the ones out there in 1 billion degrees, going full pads, full contact. We're the ones who are going to have to brave the elements late in the season and go to some of these cold weather cities. Yeah. If we're not tough enough, it's no matter what the coaches say, it's not going to matter.
Yeah, interesting. Do they ever practice inside the facility?
Yeah, so weather, obviously. If it's a thunderstorm coming through. And I think they were going to yesterday or today, and then they just ended practice. They got late enough, they ended practice. Having that Rondell Moore injury today was awful. It's, Falcons wide receiver got carted off with what looked like a pretty significant leg injury. So I think that happened very late in practice, and they just ended it then. So, but to your broader question, they need to acclimate themselves to this weather.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, because yes, we're acclimating to the weather now, practicing outside, but we do have our struggles in December, relating to cold weather in a lot of the destinations.
You can't turn the AC down to 5 below. I mean,
can we make it snow inside?
No, you cannot. So
I think we could. I think we could do anything that we set our minds to.
Yeah, well, I'm sure that that technology exists. But could you imagine the power bill?
-30.
Field house, you've seen it. That field house is massive. And so to the AC, you got to run crank the whole way down to 7 degrees or whatever, and then find a way for a snow machine and put some ice on there.
Do it. I mean, snow can't be that expensive. They have snow machines. You're from the Poconos. You know what the heck goes on up there. It's not that hard. And, I'm just trying to take this from a common sense perspective. We're struggling in those cold weather games. So, it makes sense.
What I think is a more, I love the outside the box thinking. What I think is a more feasible option for them would be to, if you're, you're playing the Bills and, the divisional round of the playoffs, you go practice outdoors in Buffalo for 4 days before the game. They do that with West Coast trips. They stay out there because it's a lot of travel and their body is acclimated at the time. I don't have a great answer as to why they don't just do that. And maybe the short answer is it doesn't make a difference that short of a compressed time. And also they might think it's more important for us to get our work in. And if we're worried about the cold on a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday practice, we're not thinking about the most important thing, which is execution. That might be what they're part of the rationale as well. But it's certainly, I would consider it. I would absolutely consider it after the way they just, the last couple of years, you get them in the cold weather and that's their kryptonite.
I am absolutely advocating for a public training camp, snow camp.
Do you imagine?
I know the fans are going to back me up on this.
Could you imagine the snow angels after touchdowns in the field house? Outside, it's literally 103 degree heat index.
I need this, okay? This has to happen.
Having a snowball. Look, anything that helps us mentally think about not it being the surface of the sun, I'm with you, all freaky. It is,
and it's
so
extreme,
hot.
and I just feel like now we're just at a disadvantage with it being so hot down here. Our guys are getting burned out early. It's impossible to stay hydrated. Literally, I go outside, today for 4 seconds, and I'm loading bags of cat litter into a dumpster, and I'm drenched. 4 seconds. It's ridiculous, it's dangerous.
I love the detail. I could just see you.
That's what I do on Wednesday morning. I go and clean cat litter. 25-pound bags of cat litter. You just chucking them over your shoulder into the dumpster. Literally, it was the workout for the day. So I just feel for these guys.
I never know. Literally, just to draw back the curtain. You were 5 minutes before the show starts. Oh, what are we talking about? And every week we get through a half an hour without breaking a sweat. Like every
because
week.
no matter what, we can always talk about the Dolphins. There's always you always bring great content. You have a lot to talk about, so it makes it easier for me.
Well, I do have a lot to talk about. I don't know about quantity. I can handle quality. Sometimes it's a little debatable. So you going to the game?
I mean, I could talk about litter boxes, but nobody wants to hear that.
You going to the game?
I am going Friday. I am going. I'm bringing the whole family, so I'm excited to get the kids out there. And we won't be tailgating like we usually do. Just walk around and I'll take pictures. And if you guys see me out there, come say hi. So I'm looking forward to it. I miss Hard Rock Stadium. That's my home away from home. And when I'm in there, I feel complete. So looking forward to it.
I asked people in the organization to make sure, yes, the mess from Copa has all been cleaned up.
Yeah, fix that elevator.
Yeah, everything seems to be back to normal, thankfully.
Okay, they made quick work of it.
And here we go. Football's back. Baby.
I can't wait. Are you going?
Yeah. I mean, I often say you couldn't pay me enough to go to preseason games, but they're literally paying me to go to preseason games. So I'll be there. I
wish they were paying me to go to preseason games.
Well, again, you love it, right?
I do. I fully love it. I would never, I can't say I would never miss a preseason game, but I make every opportunity to go. It's important to me to be there.
All right. Well, where will you be? You won't be tailgating, but you'll be floating.
Yeah, I'll be floating around. I'll be in the deep end. Obviously, that's my true home, and I'll be there with the kids, and I'll just probably walk around a little bit, say hi to people, and check out the team. So,
all right. Well, next time we talk, we will be we'll have a preseason game under our belt. Maybe we'll see some of these hurt guys come back, and we'll make it up as we go along, like we do every week.
I think that's what's best about this. It keeps it interesting. So
it does. Like. Being able to think on your feet is a big part of this business, and you do a good job of that.
Oh, thank you. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you guys next week. Fins up.